Hello again. We greet you in the name of the Lord. Welcome to Redeeming the Time, where we are trying to give you good answers to the wonderful questions that you have submitted to us. If you'd like to submit a question, go to af.shuvu.tv, and we promise there is no question too basic. We would love to help get you on a path where you can not only have your questions answered, but to equip you to answer those questions that people might give you. So today, I'm joined again by our special guest, Lance Hamill, who is an ordained Bible teacher, and we have an exciting question today, Lance.
Oh, I'm looking forward to answering this question.
So if someone has ever seen a movie or a television show or maybe on the internet, anything to do with the Jewish faith or with Judaism, there's one particular word that's used a lot. It's sort of synonymous with Jewish expression, and that word is Torah. Torah. Now this can be somewhat confusing, and what I'm going to do, Lance, I'm going to ask you to kind of explain the background of this word, because in our English Bibles, the Hebrew word Torah is translated as law. So anytime in a modern English translation of the Bible where you say the law, being under the law, or even very positive verses like the law is spiritual, the law is good and it's beautiful, it's sweet to my taste, and all those things. When that word law is used, it's really the word Torah. And Torah does not really mean law. And so if we define it improperly, we're already starting off at a bad place. So Lance, can you give us a little bit of a better flavor as to what this word Torah really means as opposed to this word law?
All right. Starting out in the New Testament, which most of our viewers are familiar with, we come across this word law quite often. And it translates the Greek word nomos. And most people who explain the word law within the New Testament context explain this as being a judiciary term, which means basically you bring down, this is the law, you have to do it, or you're going to get punished for it. That's just how it is. It becomes a judiciary term. However, if you translate this back into the Hebrew, it comes out as the word Torah. Now, Torah is a much different flavor than the word namas or the word law. The word Torah is rooted in the word yara. Yara in Hebrew means to point the finger or to throw a finger or even to shoot an arrow in a particular direction. So the word Torah, right, based on the word yara, means to go in a certain direction headed towards a certain goal. Other words that are related to this is the word orah and hora'ah. Hora'e. And this is related to an instruction from a parent to a child, from parents to children. So basically, as a parent, you would want to instruct your children in the way that they should go, which is good for them, right? And so when we look at this word Torah, this Torah is for our good. It's for our benefit. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, he says that. He says that this law, this Torah was given to us for our righteousness and for our good, and it's to protect us. So any definition that goes away from that is really not a correct definition.
Well, and I like the way you say that, because the connotation of a parent instructing a child, those of us who are parents, we know that, or those of us that have good relationships with our parents, we know that our parents instructed us because they loved us.
Yes.
And that is a different feeling than the English language concept of law. Law, to me, whenever we say the word law, to me it always has like a negative connotation. It always sounds a little oppressive. At least in our country and in our culture, we are always trying to bend the law, to stretch the law, to get around the law. The law doesn't have the same connotation as loving instruction.
It almost makes God out to be the cosmic hall monitor that you want to try to avoid.
Absolutely right. Yeah. And it's also one of those things where if I am driving here in the United States and I'm on a road and there is a policeman driving behind me, even if I'm not doing anything wrong, for some reason I get a little bit nervous.
Yes.
Because the law is behind me, and I'm scared that I'm going to mess up. And that's just not the way that our God is. He's not standing around waiting for us to mess up. And I love how you pointed out that this word that Torah comes from can describe the shooting of an arrow to hit the mark. Because what's interesting is, in Hebrew and in Greek, the word for sin in both languages means to miss the mark. So if we are being instructed in the right way, I mean, and let's take archery as an example. If you were teaching me archery and how to shoot an arrow, if you gave me the right instruction, it is your goal to help me hit the mark.
I'll do everything I can to give you the right technique. I'll give you every tool that I can give you in order for you to succeed.
Right, and that's it. You don't want me to fail.
Exactly.
And God doesn't want us to fail. So that's the background of the word Torah. But let's talk a little bit about what that word can mean as far as what is the Torah in a literal fashion, a literal explanation. So when we talk in a Jewish context about the Torah, there are a few different things that we can mean by that. Now, most of the time when we're talking about the Torah, we're talking about what in Greek is known as the Pentateuch. This is the first 5 books of what Christians call the Old Testament. For Jews, it's just the Bible, because obviously in Judaism, with their not accepting the New Testament, what we call the Old Testament that's just their Bible, their whole Bible. So Genesis through Deuteronomy is specifically what most of the time we're referring to when we say the Torah. Although there are some instances where, since this word Torah means instruction, that it can mean all of the Scripture. It can mean, the whole Bible. But in Judaism, there's also a large sort of repository of traditions and interpretations of the written Bible that have been around for a very, very long time, thousands of years. And sometimes that oral interpretation or commentary can also be referred to as Torah. So we have kind of 3 things that Torah can mean. Either just the first 5 books, or all of the Bible, or it can even put under its umbrella all of the written and the oral passed down commentaries of that. Now what's so interesting is, let me read to us a verse out of the book of Acts, chapter 21. This is verse 20. Now I'm purposely reading out of a Christian Bible because I want to show you how the word law is used here. So if we were reading out of a Jewish translation of the New Testament, then this word would be Torah, but it says law here. It says, when they heard this, they praised God, and then they said to Paul, "You see, brother, how many thousands of Jews have believed, and all of them are zealous for the law." This is not negative. This is an excited statement. Look at all these wonderful Jewish people that are coming to faith in the Messiah, and all of them are zealous for the law. They have a zeal for the Torah. Psalm 119 is a very popular passage in the book of Psalms, and it is a giant, wonderful psalm all about the Torah. And this is why all throughout the Psalms and the Proverbs, it talks about the positive nature of meditating on God's Torah, on His law, day and night, and how it's a beautiful, wonderful spiritual thing.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking about the law and its many different meanings, you celebrate the Shabbat on Friday evening. And during this time with your family, usually the husband will read Proverbs 31 over his wife as the Eshet Chayil, the woman of valor. Inside of that passage in Proverbs 31, it talks about on her tongue is the law of kindness. It's
Wow.
her Torah of kindness. So Torah is obviously connected with kindness. It's with chesed. It's this loving kindness towards the object of this word Torah.
So that's very interesting. If we looked at Torah as law, the law doesn't seem very kind to me.
Yes.
It seems like a contradiction in terms to say the law of kindness. But this is how, if we're not careful, we can have a little bit of a twisted idea just by translating a Hebrew word maybe in not the best way that it could be translated. We hope that this answer excites you, and we hope that you are able to share it with your friends. Once again, from myself and from Lance, we want to thank you for joining us for Redeeming the Time. Submit your questions at af.shuvu.tv, and we will answer them. Thank you, and God's peace, His shalom, be with you.
Shalom.